Alright, I'm going to be showing how I do my Estradiol Valerate injections. A couple things I'll need. I'll need 2 alcohol prep pads, the actual vial of Estradiol Valerate itself, 2 different size needles. One of them is a syringe with a 25 gauge needle. It's a 1 milliliter syringe. This is the one I'm actually going to be taking up the injection with and injecting with. And then I have, because I went to CVS and they didn't have the 20 gauge needles alone, I had to get them with a 3 milliliter syringe, which I will just be discarding. So first things first, you want to take your first alcohol prep pad, open that. You want to wipe off the top of your vial, at least 10 seconds or so. Make sure that gets put like that. Done with that prep pad. I'm going to take the first syringe, which is the one that's a larger syringe with a larger needle. Put it like this, plastic side down. Make sure the needle nor the syringe touches anything until you're ready. I'm going to take the 1 milliliter syringe with this smaller needle on it. Make sure not to touch any part of the needle. So I want to grab the actual syringe, but don't touch the actual casing around the needle. Twist it off. Take this larger syringe and chuck it. Take the smaller syringe with the smaller needle. Pull the small needle off because you will be using it. Keep it in the package. Then you want to stick that larger needle on the small syringe. Make sure that's tight. Then you want to pull off the cap of the larger needle. I inject 0.3 milliliters, so I'm going to pull that down to 0.3 here. Stick that into the vial. Inject that air there to replace the fluid we're taking out. Then we're going to pull it back a little bit past 3 milliliters so we get enough pressure for it to come out. I usually draw it to about 0.4 or so. Alright, then once it looks like you have about 3 mils in there, you want to tap it a little bit if there's any air bubbles on the bottom. If all the air bubbles are at the top, that's fine. You want to push it back up to get all the air bubbles out, and you only have 0.3 mils or however much you have. That ends up in the bottle instead and not in you. Then you want to pull it out of the vial. Put the vial aside. Now we're actually done with the needle you're drawing it up with, so you want to recap that and take that needle off because we are done with that needle itself. That would be discarded. Then we're going to take this filled syringe, stick on the smaller needle we'll actually do the injection with, and keep it there for a sec. You want to find a little bit of fat either on your belly or your butt or something like that, somewhere where if you tense your muscles, there's still a little bit of fat there. You want at least the length of the needle a little bit longer than that, so the needle doesn't go into muscle. I do subcutaneous injections, so that is what I'm doing. If you're doing intramuscular, you want to inject it into the muscle. I don't do that, so you want to take where you're going to be injecting, wipe that off with another clean alcohol prep pad. That's why you want to use two, because you're cleaning the bottle with one, or the vial rather with one, and yourself with the other. Let that dry a second. Alright, you want to take your syringe out with the new smaller actual injection needle, and you want to make sure the needle isn't going to fall off. This is not a lure lock, so you need to make sure it presses on so you can get it off, so you can get the actual cap off without pulling the needle with it. Then you want to go and pull it off, and now we just have the needle itself. And you want to find where you did that. And there's two schools of thought on this. Sometimes you'll want to, I've heard people will go stab and just stab it. That's fine, but what I like to do is I'll just stick the needle where I want it. And slowly stick it in until it's all the way in. And then, oh wait, hold on, it's not in yet. Let me make sure there's no dead space in the needle. Make sure you want to get a little tiny drop there. Flick that away. Alright, now I want to inject. Stick it in. Push down on the plunger to actually inject the medication. In this case, estrogen. You can pull it out a little bit if you would like, if it starts to hurt. Once the plunger's all the way in, make sure it's all the way in, just pull it straight out, and there you go. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of blood. That's completely fine. That just means you nicked an artery. That doesn't mean you are injecting into a vein or anything like that, because your fat tissue doesn't have any arteries going through it. It's just you just nicked a little bit of a capillary or something like that, and you just got that little bit right there. I'll usually just clean that off with a towel or something. I had a paper towel handy. Where'd it go? But yeah, it's okay if you see a little bit leak out. That's completely fine. It's just going to be like a tiny little drop or something like that. And then you'll just take your needles and throw them in your sharps container and just put everything away and you're done. Alright, that's how I do my estradiol injections.